Rethink Real Estate. Today we're going to go through the October wrap-up. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. October wrap-up. So let's talk about October. Reflecting on October a little bit, it's one of those bit of, I think, liminal space is how I would call it within the marketplace where people don't have a clue what's going on at the moment. I think I will probably have a fair few people that will certainly share this sentiment in the sense that we're looking forward to the election being over. We're looking forward to the end of the year being over, because one of the things that I continue to talk about here on this podcast that I still want to make sure that we put an ample warning out there to most people is that, the one thing that is absolutely consistent in what we're doing is the gap. And what I mean by that is that every single auction that we're doing at the moment is definitely getting results. There's no question about it. We're getting higher results. Some of the Zillow charts that if you were to go to any of our auction properties and you would jump onto the Zillow chart to look at what it was traditionally versus what it is now as an auction, or what is the level of activity that the property is getting in comparison to the traditional listings around it, it's still in excess of that 1,000% more activity than when it was either previously an auction, or whether or not it was, or whether or not, previously a traditional, or whether or not it's new to marketplace in comparison to the properties that are around it. However, that being said, is that we're just seeing this space of when people do place offers, they're not as willing to negotiate, okay? And not to mention as well is that you're just seeing a great deal of still volume through the front door, but we're not seeing the same level of activity in the sense of people committing. And as you can appreciate, we want to see how the election plays out. We want to see if interest rates will drop again. So what that is meaning is that the first quarter of next year, I can see an absolute influx into the marketplace. I do believe, is buyer activity going to be more next year in the first quarter? Sure, it will be, but I believe that that'll be diluted by the volume of inventory that then hits the marketplace. And I do want to caution sellers. I do want to caution you as agents. I don't want you to kick the can down the road and say, hey, let's do it next year. It's going to be better. Don't get yourself in a position where you're promising a marketplace is going to do one thing when it does another. Now, that could be said about me, in the sense that I'm saying that things aren't going to be as good as what people ultimately hope, but I'm happy to be proven wrong in that position. Absolutely happy to be proven wrong in every way, shape, and form. Let's have a quick little overview of what's going on within our business at the moment. Inventory's down a little bit, okay, with a little over 200 odd auctions that are on the marketplace at the moment. It's been a reasonably good listing month. But that being said, actually the volume of inventory that we have said no to, we have roughly over a 40% no rate at the moment that we have with internal into the company, because one of the things that was happening is just from a time efficiency perspective is that we were spinning our wheels, bringing properties onto the marketplace, providing market feedback, providing results for the seller just say, no, I'm going to keep it. So ultimately, that's one of the qualifying factors at the moment of bringing something onto the marketplace. And obviously that's us trying to be protective of ultimately our success rate, which our success rate has dropped down to about 86% as a total percentage, okay, after doing the numbers over the last 6 months, okay, so 86% total clearance, 48% of those properties selling prior to auction, okay, a further 41% selling on auction day, and then a further 11 within 10 days post-auction. So still a great clearance rate, there's no question, but that's us being a little bit more curating of that amount. Just because at the end of the day, it's one of those things that agents out there at the moment, when they're approaching us for the first time, they're hoping that we can do sale by magic. And then when we speak to the sellers and understand their level of motivation, it is simply, hey, look, we don't want this to sour the taste in your mouth, because we are seeing a lot of agents, souring the taste in their mouth with auction. When we take the property to auction, it goes through the process itself and sells shortly afterwards for a price that they, definitely didn't promise their sellers. At the end of the day, they're like, oh no, the auction didn't work. Well, no, I would beg to differ. Your opinion of value didn't work. So anyway, I'm going to go through this month. We've had closings in California, Arizona, Nevada, Florida, Oregon, South Carolina. And Georgia as well. So just wanting to run through and just give you a bit of a snapshot on that. And just to show you just when something is the right type of product in the marketplace, you can still definitely get a result. Had a property, 170 Hawken Road in Reno, Nevada. Jamison Blair was the listing agent of that property. This property was on and off the marketplace as a new construction build for a little over 12 months, okay? $3.5 million was the bidding to start from price. We sold it for just under $4 million. And as anybody can appreciate, $3.5 million, if you know the Northern Nevada marketplace, and that is not in Tahoe itself or Lake Tahoe, if you know it at all, that might as well be a $10 million plus property within California. And that property there, we got a tremendous amount of interest from the onset. Okay, it sold prior to auction through one of the buyers who had previously seen the property. It really provoked them to do something because they didn't want to miss out on it. And that is one of the things that we need to take into consideration, is that there are a lot of people sitting on their hands at the moment, and provoking them that they will miss out is definitely one thing, but it's also putting them in the perception of competition through the auction process that definitely helped us in that negotiation. Their original offer was 3.5, negotiated all the way up to almost $4 million. And in essence is that we really played on the emotional standpoint. Keep in mind, people start their search logically. They then proceed through to emotional once you get them into the property. So let's play on that cycle, okay? Now, another property that we had in Arizona, this was a property that sold after auction. Nancy Dion, lower price point of $500,000 bidding to start from, sold for $635,000. That's one of those marketplaces in Goodyear that you can see at the moment that inventory levels are far higher than what they previously were prior to COVID. So at the end of the day, we needed to stand out. We needed to get some attention. Now, it did sell after auction because they had it originally listed at almost $700,000. Now, you may say, well, they lost money by bringing it to the market. No, these people moved to Florida. They needed to sell in that marketplace right then and there. They couldn't afford the carry costs. They couldn't even afford to rent it because it had negative. It would have been a negative on their spread on their balance sheet every month. So again, it definitely didn't cash flow. So again, we needed to expedite the marketplace for them to see that. So therefore, that was a great result by Nancy as well. Another one that I want to make mention of as well here, guys, is that I want to go through and talk about a property in North Tustin. Brenna Van Hugenstein and Kathy Clark, they were the listing agents on it. It sold after auction. $2.2 million is what the bidding to start from. It sold for $2.888. Okay. This was simply a situation where the seller needed time on marketplace to see the value or see the market feedback. Now, it was one of those situations we didn't have anyone registered to bid. We had several offers prior to auction that were all around that $2.7 million mark. And again, the seller didn't want to accept that. Their original expectations taking it to auction, this wasn't a property that got converted. Their original expectations were around $3+ million. And again, we were able to provide an ample volume of feedback. Now, we did put it back on the marketplace, okay, and it went back on at $2.9 million. Now, in essence, is that we did bring them under the $3 million mark from an education perspective, but then when the 2.8 and we negotiated up from there turned up, they greatly appreciated it because it was well over $100,000 more than what we were able to attain prior to auction from an educational standpoint. That right there, guys, is that most people go, oh, well, it was a failure. No, that is a tremendous success from an educational perspective, and it was a great result. Considering that marketplace at the moment, that is a higher price point for that area of that marketplace. Okay. Another one that I want to make mention to is 30th Place in Fort Lauderdale. That was with Mendel and Steve, the listing agents on that, selling before auction, bidding to start from at $800. We sold it at $900. This is in a very sluggish marketplace of Fort Lauderdale. Okay. In that price point at the moment, if you were to look there on Zillow at the moment, you can barely see any land mass. It's actually just simply red dots of properties on the marketplace. Again, another one of those situations where we needed to expose it in that marketplace. The 900 was actually right at their non-disclosure reserve price from the original onset. Was on the marketplace previously for about $949, and then we converted it over to auction, bidding to start from at $800. Got the volume of people through the door and managed to get an offer prior to auction day. One of the other ones that I want to make mention on as well, okay, is a property in Blucher Avenue there in Granada Hills with the Green Group, Justin Green, Chad Whitfeld, the listing agents on this property itself. This was another situation, guys, where it was through a process of elimination, bidding to start from at $800, selling at $955. Now, this was one of those situations where the seller's original list price on this property was $1.2 million. It was on the marketplace with another agent. It had expired. These agents reached out to them using the auction process as a benefit to then get in the front door. And in essence, is that we, on auction day, we managed to get them straight up there to $950,000 with actual bidding. The sellers did not accept that on the day itself. Okay. However, it was shortly after when we put the property back on the marketplace for $1 million and they realized that nobody was coming in at $1 million, that they shortly came back to that person. We were lucky enough to know that that person was still there. Okay. And we end up getting up another $5,000 to $955,000. So again, just some examples of what's going on out there at the moment. I'm not saying that there's multiple registered bidders, there's several offers prior to auction, all of those things. This is all about making sure that we are managing expectations throughout the process. We are provoking the marketplace to have a little bit more leverage in that negotiation. Okay. But as far as what the outlook looks like, sorry, one other that I did have noted down here that I do want to mention is the property in Oregon, Happy Valley. Jennifer Maben is the listing agent on that property, bidding to start from at $899, selling just over $1 million. Okay, this property sold after auction. It was a traditional listed property, okay, that then converted over to auction. One of the things I do want to make mention on this is that it was a property that it was an interesting one because the Happy Valley marketplace is used to multiple offer situations. You know, it's a very quick moving marketplace in Oregon. It's just outside of Portland. It is definitely one of those markets where the agents there are used to multiple offer situations, used to higher volume through the door. Jennifer used the auction process perfectly in the sense that the sellers went through a situation where it fell out of escrow a couple of times, and we brought the property over to auction. And then in essence is that then we ended up getting that result after auction day. It was one of those ones that, you know, we could only get a certain amount of money prior to auction. So then we put a list price on it at a price where we told people that the price was already negotiated. Please don't make an offer over that number. And we end up getting under that number, rather, we end up getting over the list price of $999. It was $1,011,000 was the end result of that property. So again, that was another one where it was all about the processing, all about helping price that property accordingly post-auction, okay, and getting done. And as you can see here, guys, as I was trying to make my point, is that this marketplace at the moment is not about the exorbitant results and that we're going to sell properties for unbelievable numbers. This is about making sure that we can manage expectations of the sellers so that they can see it. Okay, they know that they've gotten the most money out of the market at that particular moment of time. Okay, using the process of auction, okay, in order to actually have a little bit more leverage in that situation to negotiate up. Okay, because of the perception of competition. Keep in mind that the perception of competition in people's mind is always likely larger than what the reality really is. And that gives us the leverage that is ultimately needed, even if there is only the one person. All of these transactions, apart from the one in Reno where we had a couple of other lower offers, is that all of these didn't have multiple offers, didn't have multiple buyers. It was about making sure that we leveraged the perception and then either getting it priced really, really well after auction through the education. They might not be ready to accept the price that is in front of them at auction. Okay, so therefore, what price can we get on it after is an actual fundamental factor that was how real estate was done pre-COVID. It was how real estate was done pre-COVID. And again, I think we're going to progress back into that marketplace over the little while. Now, there is talk that interest rates won't come down even further in the first quarter or even the first 6 months. It might be higher for longer into 2025. Are you ready for that to happen? Because at the moment, I just feel that agents and sellers are kicking the can down the road into the next quarter. So all in all, folks, I think that there's a couple of learnings within all of that. Again, the success rate over the last 6 months still being 86%. It's one of the lowest that we've ever had, but that is just times of people trialing, the process of auction to get the final answer, and we're happy with that. Again, we've got to give it a shot. We've got to become an asset, a tool in the tool belt of real estate agents to offer something a little bit different, okay, rather than just simply a price reduction. So all in all, guys, October was a decent month. Definitely from a listing perspective, bringing the volume that we have to the marketplace at the moment. It's nice to be in a position to say no as well when we can identify the right type of listing. And I would caution you on that as well, is that unless you are taking that listing from a strategic perspective to get more listings around it, okay, be conscious of your time leading into the end of the year, because a lot of people may just be spinning their wheels. all in all, folks, not a bad month of October. Happy for things to start to progress in the direction of decisions being made, so no one has any further excuses. If it's not the elections, if it's not interest rates, it's then the holiday season that is approaching. So all in all, I think that we've just got to prove to people that in this point of marketplace or in this particular time of the market, at the moment, to come on the market when there's less inventory and people are taking their properties off the market, even though inventories in most markets are still at the highest point they've been since COVID, is that I think that is probably the strategic and the smart bet if I was selling, is that I would be doing it within less competition rather than more in the first quarter of next year. Hopefully that's helped. Hopefully it's given you a bit of an update. Thanks so much for tuning in. So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.